Hey everybody, it's the CCJT Amateur Hour where production values go to die. Over there is CC.
Over there is JT.
And this is the podcast where we like to help writers write. We do the writing thing. We've been doing the writing thing for a while, and what we do is we try to share our experience and our love for writing. It's an addiction, it's pretty much like cocaine. We gotta do it, man. Gotta do it.
And if you have watched JT for the last few days like I have, he is in the throes of a new story, and it's like a new relationship where you just cannot stay away from each other.
Yeah.
Every waking moment, falling asleep moment has been wrapped around this story. So I'm feeling neglected.
We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but let's get our bearings established. It's June 30th. It's the last day of June. We are really close to halfway through the year.
Yes.
A couple of days here or there. So it's really this year has been really weird.
Very strange.
Very strange. Of course, the first quarter you retired.
Actually, yes. Yesterday was my 3-month retirement versary.
Yeah. So the first quarter you retired. January,
Yes.
February, March you retired, and then we did the trips.
Mm-hmm.
We did the trips. We did the California thing, and then we did the big ass trip. So we traveled like 8,000 miles between the two,
Yes.
at least. And then and then we've been working on putting our company together, and it's just they say as you get older, it's like unrolling a roll of toilet paper. The roll goes faster the closer you get to the middle, and it's
very true.
It seems like that, doesn't it? It doesn't seem like this. It seemed like the first part of this year really dragged, and then
Parts of it, yes.
Yeah, then it
felt
just
like
didn't.
yes, because we're doing things now that we really want to do.
Yeah.
And unlike in childhood when, I remember those long, lazy summer afternoons where it just seemed like time would go on forever. You'd go outside, and at least in our generation, parents would kind of throw us out of the house first thing in the morning and like be home in time for dinner.
Right.
And they didn't know where the hell you were all day. You were just out there doing things. And it's like, you go and you lay under a tree for a few hours and watch the clouds, and time just seemed endless.
And not to be passive aggressive about it, because generations change, technology changes, of course, but now today kids seem more likely to have their bodies in the home, but their minds are very far away, thousands of miles away, fighting battles and building mines and things like that. It's different. It's different, but it's not better. It's not worse.
No.
It's just different. Very quickly, we always talk about our current projects, and I think the most important current projects is how much the Cubs suck.
Well,
I knew they were going to be bad this year, but my God, they're looking up at mediocrity.
Yeah.
They're in the lamest division, in the lamest league, and they're in last place. I didn't know that. Oh man. Anyway, so I'm wearing my colors to support my boys.
Yep.
Thinking of them. I know it's going to get better. I know.
Well, we went to the Baseball Hall of Fame on our big ass trip, and we did see some things from the glory days of the Cubs, the 2016, actually 15 and 16, because I think we won the division in 15.
Yeah, we
won the series in 16. So,
on a Wednesday in Cleveland.
On a Wednesday in Cleveland, and we got to visit. We saw the World Series ring and Cubs colors and a Cubs locker, and
so we stand by our boys. But man, and don't forget
Die Hard.
Harry Carey. We got to listen to Harry Carey do the 7th inning stretch, which really brought chills. Man, it's just
I
my
know.
God.
All those hot summer days in Nebraska when we watched Harry and the Cubs on WGN.
Oh, okay.
With our hot dogs that we got from the NCO club, and trip down memory lane.
Okay. So come on, Cubs. Go Cubs,
go.
Go Cubs, go.
Fly the W.
Okay. Current events. Okay, CC's already talked about my big current event.
Yes.
And I'm really pleased.
You should definitely talk about it because you've been so wrapped up in it.
I'm really pleased with how it's going because I've been really hammering at it. Okay. The book is just flowing. The code name is Sexbot Revolution, but it's really not that.
You should mention how we came.
Well, we did mention how it came out. Okay. We were looking at covers for the Space Epic. and we're looking at random covers, and we're going to these sites where they have their
mock-up.
They have their mock-ups, and
Yep.
it's just mock-ups. And CC over here just says, "Oh, look at this 1-6-spot revolution," and it just made us laugh
The
because
little light bulb went off.
But then at the same time, I went,
and
and I resisted. Oh, folks, I God is my witness. I resisted. I'm not going to write another book while I'm editing a book. While I am editing a book, while we are editing a book that we're writing together, and I have a book that's ready to be published to go to the editors. So I'm not going to. I resisted for as long as I could.
Well, and also, so you have the 3-book series of the space epic written.
Yes.
The other book that you were getting ready to send to the editor is going to be a prequel to that.
Maybe. I haven't decided. I'm still
on the fence?
But what I'm writing now is
a
definitely a prequel.
So it looks like that universe is expanding quite a bit.
But it's like
this could be a long-term, and I wonder how this will affect the potential project for 2025 that we will be doing more research for. Will you continue to do that, or
and this is the life of a writer, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that too, from what you saw on social media. But it's like I've written 6 days. I've worked on this book. I finally gave up on it last week, and I gave in last week. 6 days, and I've been averaging more than 3,000 words a day, and I've got more than 19,000 words. And I usually write, like 70,000 words in there. And I don't know if I'm going to make it this one, so I'm thinking about a part 2 of this one. But anyway, like
remember Star Wars, folks? It started out with ended up being the central 3-story arc.
We're not going
so JT has the central, like A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, something like that.
In the space epic, and now we're going back to do
whatever those crap movies were.
I really did not like those prequels, but
okay, we're not going there.
But we diverge from the subject.
So that is the current project. While we work on the cover for the space epic, waiting for the finished product from the editors of the space epic, and we are waiting on our book.
Yes.
That book. Because we are going to try to add another chapter of travel to that.
Probably more chapters.
Yeah, we're probably going to add more chapters. We're going to try to go to Canada, as long as real life doesn't interfere. We're probably going to go to Canada next month.
Yeah, actually tomorrow is next month. So
tomorrow's next
coming
month.
up very soon.
So, but anyway, those are my current projects, blah, blah, blah. Your turn.
So while JT has been busy on that, I finally switched gears to get started on my work in progress that has been sitting on the back burner for a little while. I've got a pretty decent first chapter, I think, written. So mine is not coming along as quickly as yours. And we will be talking a little bit more about why that is the case here in a few minutes. But that is a work in progress. I am toying with our social media platforms, so hopefully you are following along with us on that. But that's part of my current projects is learning more about social media and trying to become more consistent with our social media posts and updating our social media a little bit. And we're still figuring out exactly how we want that to go along. So I'm busy with basically we're thinking about marketing plans, but we're not yet ready to get started on those because we are still waiting for the space epic to come back and the book cover to come back. And then we will be rolling into that. And I'm sure we'll probably do a podcast when we get to that point where we're talking about our plans and getting things in motion. But I'm looking forward to fall because I did a series on on my YouTube channel last year where I read some Edgar Allan Poe, and I will be reusing that this October for our social media, but I'll also be adding to it. So planning things out ahead of time and writing and working on our business. And we have a lot going on right now, like the upcoming trip, potentially another trip in September, potentially. So we're going to be busy, busy, busy. And the second half of the year is probably going to fly by.
Yeah. And we also forgot, and we apologize for this, as we plan to do the book drawing the free book drawing earlier this week, but we just got swept up in events, from being busy.
Right.
And so we're gonna get that done today.
Yes.
We will reach out to the winner, and hopefully they will give us permission to give their name.
Correct.
But if not, someone's going to get a free book one way or the other.
And it will be a choice of a book from the proof copies that we currently have available. So that will be coming later today.
Great. So we're actually going to do our job then. The business
We have
side.
been.
We've been doing the creative side, but
Yes.
the business side, you've
We've
been
done
doing
some preparation.
Yeah.
Yes, we're working. That's the part that I think both of us are lacking, because we've done the writing part of it for so long, but you have to have a public face. And I saw another author I follow on YouTube, who was talking about writers are very introverted. We like to hide out and put our things, we like to put words on the page, but actually sharing those words that we've written with other people can be a little bit stressful for us. So we are somewhat performative because we are making things up, but we don't want to do the actual performance aspect, which is marketing.
Right.
So she said, you gotta, you can hide in your little cave and write your story, but then you have to get out there and tell people about your story so they'll read it.
Yeah, writing, as we absolutely said in the past, writing is a very private process that's done in the public eye. And folks have problems, understandably, like us, have problems struggling with that sentence work being done, public work or private work being done in public eye. So it's a struggle. It's a struggle. But let's talk about some fun stuff. Unless we gotten everything.
I think that's it.
Okay.
We have a lot going on.
Today, as you saw on social media, we're talking about things that writers find normal, that normal people find weird. And what do we mean by that? Well, artists in general have a reputation, which again, I do not buy into, that they have to be out there on I don't want to use the word spectrum, but they have to be out there in order to let the art flow through their body onto whatever the canvas they happen to be using, whether it's a painter's canvas, writing, or whatever. They have to let go. And I don't know if that's really true, because there's a lot of normal people out there that write, and they are not. You wouldn't know that unless they told you that, because it's just my opinion. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but an opinion is not fact. Facts are
Correct.
Facts, but opinions are not facts. But there are chores, there are tasks, there are habits that are universal to writers. And so we're going to talk about the two main parts of writers. And don't forget, in the Venn diagram, there's a big overlap between the two. But we're going to be talking about pantsers and plotters. And then, and then there's the folks that are in the middle. And there's lots of folks in the middle. Cece is a little bit of that. Not me, you. So a pantser, me, is somebody that writes on the fly. They want to see where the book is going. They want to go with the flow and see where the adventure takes them. A plotter, which you are more than I am, is somebody that maps out their book because they want to follow a map and have some sort of organization. And you notice I'm not saying which one or the other is wrong or right. It's just depends. Again, it's opinion. It's more of an art than a science in some instances. And then there's folks that are in the middle that kind of sketch out a plot just to keep their brain organized, and there's a value to that. And then they sort of write to that plot, but they may or may not stick to it. So, but we're going to talk mostly about the weird things that a pantser does and a plotter does, and you're going to take the plotter point of view. So why don't you go ahead and talk about what what plotters may do that plotters find normal, where the outside person looking in, the normal person, may not think so.
Well, I think a lot of people who don't write may have the illusion that someone just sits down at a keyboard, at a typewriter, even with pen and paper, and the words just flow right out of them, which is what you're alluding to with the pantsing. And that does work for some people, and I do that on occasion. What I'm doing with my current work in progress is that it is a historical story set in a very specific period of time. So I have done a lot of advanced research on that to make sure that the timeline is correct, because I want, even though it's fiction, it will be historical fiction, I want to make sure that the basic outline of that time in history is correct. So probably the weird thing that maybe non-writers would consider strange is the fact that I've put so much effort into researching the history of that time period, which I am very familiar with at this point from my former day job, but the nuances of that history. And it also plays in a little bit to some of the research we did earlier this year, in that it follows the timeline of Civil War era. So I have the Civil War era, I have our state history, and I've written an outline based on specific events that have happened within a period of time. And then my characters are reacting to that history. So I have gone down rabbit holes on the nuances, looking at one of my favorite resources, which is called Chronicling America on the Library of Congress site. And with my previous job, I had a hand in helping to get some of those newspapers up there, because what they do is they digitize historical newspapers and they make them available to the general public. So if you are someone who's interested in history or interested in writing about history, I definitely recommend going to Chronicling America. It's really easy to find. But I've taken that and created a framework, which is my plot outline for the story. And then within the context of that plot outline, my characters are kind of, like I said, reacting and interacting with that history. The characters themselves are not historic figures. They're fictional figures living in a historic time, which I find fascinating. And I love all the little nuances of getting that just right, tweaking things, clothing, language, household items, foods that they ate, how they celebrated different holidays. So you can see how easy it is to go down that rabbit hole. Mm-hmm. So that would be my weird writing habit, I guess, is that I spend so much time on it.
Well, let's talk a little bit more, because I've looked over your shoulder and I've seen the plotting being done. Mm-hmm. It looks like it's like 10-point font.
Something like that.
10-point font. How many pages?
Of my plot?
Yeah.
Probably 4 pages. It's currently set up as 20 chapters.
Right.
Each chapter has 3 scenes. And then within each of the 3 scenes, there are 3 elements. So something happens, the character reacts to that, and it sets off a chain of events that leads to another story point. So it's, I have looked at things like Save the Cat Writes a Novel. There are resources out there that will help you plan out books. There are a lot of resources available, especially to romance writers, where they talk about story beats, where you have a certain part of the story, a certain emotional reaction or something happen at a very particular point in the story. Not to say, they kiss on page 2 kind of thing, but it's like once you've had your rising action, something happens here. So that is a secondary aspect to it, is you're not only aware of all the historic activities that are happening, in my case, but also what would be the most effective story elements to happen at a particular point in the story. So that's why it's broken down into so many pages.
And perhaps I should have prefaced this by saying what I found weird, but this is all single-spaced, all very small font, and it's all, and it's 4 pages, which to me is mind-boggling, because I could never, I would just sit down and write the damn thing. Mm-hmm. But I could see, because you want to respect the time, you want to respect, the chain of events and the series of events and the historical events. Mm-hmm. So that's why you're going to this level with a historical novel, whereas I just create the history.
Well, you may find yourself doing something somewhat similar if you do your project for next year, but I find it helps me keep on track with my characters as well, because I can see maybe they've had a reaction to something in the previous chapter that in the current chapter, something similar happens and they have a different reaction. So I can go back and say, wait, are they doing this out of character? Has their character evolved where makes sense for this chapter? So it does provide a framework that it's like, when you're playing with Legos, the kids used to have a Lego set. It was all generic Lego pieces. You'd have the little flat base piece, and you would take the Legos and you'd start creating a foundation for something. So that's what my outline is. It's the foundation for the story. And then you start filling in the different aspects of that foundation until you have the full structure, which is your book.
And I'm sure that some of our listeners do not find that strange at all, because there are professions that absolutely require this level of preparation.
Yes.
I'm thinking like lawyers and project managers, just off the top of my head, project managers who manage complex, whatever kind of projects their profession provides. So maybe that isn't so strange, but others might find that level of detail kind of, like,
overkill.
Well, you talk about building the house. Why don't you just build the damn house? But everybody has to approach their own writing, in their own way, and so there is no right or wrong. There is writing.
And in this case, I think having this framework will help in the long run, because I can go back and, like I said, I can make sure the character is staying true to themselves, that I haven't thrown in some random event that happened like 15 years in the future and not at that time period. So I think in this case, that level of preparation is very necessary.
And it's important to remember, of course, that you're trying to minimize error, but you're not going to be able to eliminate error.
That's
something's going to creep in. And so, but, that happens.
But it also helps in the writing process, where I can look at the outline if I'm stuck and say, okay, I don't know where to go, but this has just happened. And then I sit there and think about, okay, this character is dealing with this event. So where do I go from here? And it gives me that basis to start writing that next scene, so that by the time I get to the end of the book, hopefully the end is already in sight. It will make sense. And I won't be stuck in that last third of the book where it's like, what do I do now?
Yep. And this is all good. Again, there is no right or wrong. Very briefly, I've already alluded to what I do as a pantser, and it's no great mystery, and it's probably not great weirdness. But back in the day when I had a day job, oh boy, when I had a day job, when I had an hourly wage going on, those were the days. I would be responsible for writing, doing research and writing complex reports that would sometimes get a great deal of visibility.
Right.
And sometimes not. And it doesn't matter. But and some of the reports over time became quite easy and predictable, and I could just pull out an old version of the report because I had it over here, and I just plug it over here and plug in new codes, and done. Big whoop. And everybody would go, "Woo, how'd you do that so fast?" And I'm going, I worked so hard. Would you like another Rice Krispies treat? Okay. But some reports were a challenge, especially during lockdown, because that was just a brand new world. And so what I would find myself doing as I go to sleep is I would be constructing the reports in my brain, and then getting up the next day and then writing the reports, or at least getting on the track. And that's probably fairly common. And so I don't mean to make it sound weird, but I'm sure it happens more than it doesn't. Many of us probably fall asleep plotting out the next day. Ooh, see how I plotted that out? See, I'm paying attention. Okay, but for a pantser, what that means is to use the time to work on the book. And so I found myself recently, for the last 2 or 3 weeks, writing this book.
All the time.
All the time. So so some folks find themselves, in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering what they should have done better, during the day, and what they're going to do tomorrow. And I find myself writing my book, and I don't have a problem with that. That's how I go to sleep. And when I get up the next day, I try to crank out 2,000 or 3,000 words, and it seems to work. And as I said, I've done like 19,000 words in 6 days, so the system seems to be working for this book. Though I can see something coming up, but that's just me.
That point where you get there and you're not sure where to go.
Yeah, not where not to go, and that's the risk of being a pantser. We enjoy the ride. We like to go. We like to go where the book is taking us. We like to do the spirit of the book. And my personal rule is if I were reading this book, what would I want to read? And so, and I'm not claiming that I'm any good reader. And if you could see some of the books I've read, you would absolutely agree with that. But what do I want to read? What do I want to see next, or what will happen logically next from the events so far? And I think that's how pantsers live. We like to live, without the security and safety of a printed outline, because we want to be energized by the book. Whereas you, and probably more than a few plotters, they enjoy the security and predictability of having to plot. And that would be a nice world to live in, but that's not my world.
Well, it seems like the structure of a plot would be very rigid, but there is a lot of flexibility. Like I said, I'm looking at specific historic events, but how the characters react to them can be completely different. And since the characters are fictional, they can react however I think they should react, or how they tell me they should react, because the characters tend to take over. But and that actually may be another point of weirdness maybe that I think both of us would share. And I'm assuming here, but I feel like the characters themselves will tell you what they want to do.
Yeah.
So some people say that when they're writing, it's like the characters are just speaking through them. And there was a very famous Carol Burnett sketch back in the day, showing our age here again, where somebody is writing a story and you're seeing the characters play out the story over here. And every time the writer is sitting there typing, oh, no, backspace, erase. And the characters are stopping and going, what are you doing? It's like, yeah, you think you are writing the story, but the characters are telling you what to write. So there is a lot of that, I think, in both pantsing and plotting, that you have kind of a basic structure, at least when you're thinking about it at night.
Yeah.
So when you sit down to write the next day, you start going in a direction, but the characters may say, oh, no, I meant this. So I think that's one of the more common, strange things about writing, is that it's not what we want the story to be, it's what the characters want the story to be.
And I think that if we've proven anything in the last 10, 20 minutes that we've talked about this, is that again, writers are just like normal people. So
I don't know about that.
But our work habits and our dedication to craft and our quote-unquote professionalism, where we want to respect the product that we're doing, and we want to respect the reader, is sort of like being in a customer service organization where a private business wants to provide the best product possible by respecting the customer and respecting the customer's needs. So in that way, we're not really that much different, but hey, the reputation, the stereotypes continue to exist. Thank you, Edgar Allan Poe, wherever you are, and so be it. That's what we have to live with. That's where we are. And so we reached the point of the podcast where if you are a writer and you are one of us, are we correct or are we wrong? So we ask that you reach out and let us know.
Well, and if you are either a pantser or a plotter, or maybe you fall in the middle of that Venn diagram, do you feel that we were right about characters taking over the story? Because, no matter how much you plot, no matter how much you write, it does seem like things that you don't expect end up in there, and we'd love to hear how you feel about that too.
Yep. This has been a fascinating discussion and an interesting look into how the sausage is made. But that's the point of these podcasts, is that we're trying to help writers write, and we want to also get feedback on our thoughts. So please feel free to reach out. Okay, we're going to wrap this up here in a minute. Do a quick summation. We're going to do the book drawing today. We're going to get that going. We're going to continue writing because we're silly that way. And we're going to continue planning our trip in July, which we hope will take us up to Canada and add more chapters to our Big Ass Trip book that we did earlier this year. And, and all the other things that are happening in real life. Can you think of anything else you want to sum up real quick?
Well, just the Bat book, as we're calling it. We weren't sure exactly where to go with that because it is our first nonfiction venture together. So it would be fun if you stay tuned to see how that plays out, because it's gone from kind of a travelogue to a memoir to a combination of things. So it will be an interesting book, I think, kind of a culmination of our experiences together as a couple. But this first big trip, long trip together as a couple in all of our years together, because we've taken a lot of shorter trips, but that was a long time for the two of us to be cooped up together 24/7, almost 3 full weeks of it. So the book will be a reflection of what we learned about ourselves and each other in that time, even after all these years together. So we hope you stay tuned for that, because it hopefully will be out this fall. Like we said, we need to finish this next upcoming trip and then add a little bit more and tweak things, and then images will be involved. And so not only are we working on our fictional worlds, we're working on providing some nonfiction content that may be of interest to everyone. We hope.
Okay, so that's as good an ending as anything. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. We're going to go ahead and wish you a very happy, if you celebrate, 4th of July. We hope that everybody celebrates safely and has fun. And
Independence Day. So our next podcast, should that be about ID4?
we might do that. I think we've done that before, actually. but
Possibly,
we
but
might do it. We might do it again because we just
Just
like
because.
we like pulling out the old tropes like that. And God, ID4 is such a walking, talking cliche. We'll think about it. We'll let you know. Unless you can think of anything else. Okay, so Cece's over there.
And that's JT.
And we wish you all a very happy week and a very happy upcoming July. Y'all take care now. Bye-bye.
Stay cool.